Start with what we heard about Shaun Abrahams, his decision to go ahead and prosecute Jacob Zuma. For those who missed it over the weekend, how's the ANC responded to this?
Well, very muted. We had a very short statement from Esma Hashule saying the organization has noted the decision of the NPA. The organization also appealed to the South African public to allow law enforcement agencies to do their work. Now, this is significant, Uveka, because it's in stark contrast to the support, of course, that the ANC has traditionally given Jacob Zuma. What we see is that if this case is going to go to KwaZulu-Natal, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to rally to the president's support. So far, it has been the MKVA. Carl Neus had already said that they don't believe the president is going to get a fair trial. And then some sectors in the Youth and Women's League, but certainly not the massive support. And I think there's a very good reason for that. The ANC cannot be seen to be undermining the rule of law. It is on this program of reform. And of course, Cyril Ramaphosa has given South Africans the assurance that no one, including ex and former presidents, will be above the law. So the ANC will have to, of course, fall on the right side of the criminal justice system in this regard. It does present, however, the organization with a dilemma, because remember, the president is supposedly campaigning for the African National Congress. If he becomes a corruption accused, it makes the ANC's anti-corruption message all the more weaker.
He can't be seen to be out there.
No, absolutely. He's going to be like an albatross around the organization's head. So we're going to see in the coming months, as this matter plays out, how the ANC is going to have to play it. But they're going to have to walk a very tightrope here.
Well, obviously, Karima, I suppose the suspicious among us might go, but what do you think is really going on behind this decision? You know, there must be a catch. I'm looking at the front page. The Citizen, for example, Zuma's get out of jail card saying, I didn't know. Now, saying here, one legal expert or one law expert saying Zuma's taking the one route open to him, pleading ignorance, claiming he thought it was simply the way to do business and he could get off scot-free on all graft charges. Is there a chance that there is a loophole for him, which is why authorities know that Shaun Abrahams possibly knows, is thinking, okay, I can go out and go public and say I'm charging him?
Look, I think what we need to remember here, Uveka, and it's very important because this matter has been so mishandled right from the beginning, when Bulalani Ngcuka went before the nation saying, we've got prima facie evidence, but we don't have a winnable case, we're not going to prosecute. That was playing politics, and we saw, of course, the mess as a consequence of that. Jacob Zuma called their bluff, and here we are all these years later. The criminal justice system has been severely compromised. The Scorpions was shut down. President Zuma came into power and basically re-engineered these institutions to prevent himself from having to go to court. That has now all come and gone. He has to now go to court. But here's the truth. The NPA is far from a credible institution. Shaun Abrahams himself lacks credibility. The people in KwaZulu-Natal, the NPA there, Moiponi Noko, who's going to make critical decisions on this, if you look at her track record, she is a Zuma ally. She's the woman who made the charges against Uveka Zuma disappear. She's the person who dropped the charges against friends of Edward Zuma when they appeared. But she's also the person who brought vexatious charges against the KwaZulu-Natal Chief Justice at the time, and also the former head of the Hawks, General Johan Boyson. She doesn't have a track record that speaks well of that institution. So a lot is at stake here. And of course, what we need is a process in law, Uveka, that is going to deal with the facts, no matter what our feelings are. And our corruption laws are very clear here. We have to establish intent. That is the most important thing here. Now, Shabir Sheikh's explanation of his financial relationship with Zuma was rejected, which is why he was found guilty. If Jacob Zuma is going to be tried based almost on the same evidence, it would be safe to say that he's going to have a very tough hill to climb on the basis of that, and not knowing is not a defense, Uveka.
Well, the other headache for him, of course, and like the Star headlines, it's Zuma legal fees headache. Zuma's plead poverty as well is the Cape Times front page, and that is what happens now with the legal fees. That's one thing, but just looking at the fallout over this, he won't be able to repay if he loses. That's according to his nephew. And then Thabo Mbeki declining to comment on the agreement that was reached all those years ago.
Look, this is going to be an embarrassment for the state, because they will have to show which piece of legislation governs whatever agreements there were, ones between Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki, and whatever it is that Cyril Ramaphosa is basing his explanation on. And yesterday, Advocate Tembeka Ngcoyaitobi indicated that there is going to probably be a legal challenge to this agreement because the law is very, very clear. You cannot the state cannot pay for someone who is guilty or who has to stand accused and answer to charges if they have conducted those things in their private capacity. And of course, this is what the DA has been saying. They're saying that Mr. Zuma is being tried here in his personal capacity, and they want to recoup that 15 million, and of course also they want to get answers from President Cyril Ramaphosa and the EFF as well, and he's meant to give them answers this week on what the legal prescripts are that is governing this agreement. And I foresee a court battle over this matter, Uveka, and it's going to be interesting to see if Zuma is going to be as bolshy as he has been if the money dries up, and whether he's going to be able to retain the types and the quality of lawyers. He's had access to the best silks in the country because the money came from South Africans. Now, when you have a situation where the government tells you we don't have money to deal with pit latrines, but we have 15 million to spend on Jacob Zuma's efforts to stay out of court, 20 million to spend on Hlaudi Motsoeneng, then there's a believability gap. In an election year, that's a dangerous message.
It's going to hurt them if that happens. And finally, let's look at the opposition. Patricia de Lille certainly not going down without a fight.
No.
And also the Cape Argus headline, DA spat, de Lille goes public. The latest action for an open case is enraging the DA's top brass.
Look, the DA has gotten away with a lot on this matter because the media hasn't been as
hasn't been the dog with a bone.
Hasn't been the dog with a bone, but also we don't ascribe to the DA the kind of complexity that we do the African National Congress. No. We don't look for what is at issue. And of course, we're beginning to already see the whole fight around the water economy in Cape Town and the involvement of people linked to the DA. You know, Tony Leon's firm, for example, did some media work for the city. Those things, if it comes up in other political parties, the media's at it. And we stick with it. We haven't actually done our homework here. And I think the DA is very worried about the kind of scrutiny that's going to come in this case because we are then going to be able to lift the lid on what is actually here. And generally, it doesn't matter which political party, if you scratch hard enough on the politics, you get to the money. And I'm sure this is about resources and about access to largesse. You must remember the DA rules Cape Town with a 2/3 majority. It has had a free hand in massive issues around water economy, gentrification, and I think this case is going to hurt the Democratic Alliance.
And especially when there's really been no clarity as to exactly what she did wrong.
Absolutely, and of course the DA has been able to spin this as a so-called anti-corruption matter, but Patricia de Lille is a very feisty person. She's not going down without a fight.
She's been a corruption fighter herself.
Yes, and I think both her and the DA's reputations are on the line on this one.
Oh, so much to watch out for. Thank you very much. That's political analyst Karima Brown breaking it all down for us, as she does on a Monday morning.